Ho ho ho, Christmas came early on this channel thanks to the Toronto International Film Festival, because today I am going to be talking about the latest from director Alexander Payne, being The Holdovers, starring Paul Giamatti, Divine Joy Randolph, and Dominic Sessa, written by David Hemmingson. This is obviously a huge player, or at least a lot of people have been hyping this up to be a huge player come this Oscar season. Alexander Payne is back after downsizing, which was about 6 years ago at this point. And look, I'll be honest, I like Downsizing. It wasn't a great movie, but I don't understand why it was so overtly hated from top to bottom. I think that there was a lot to enjoy. Even Hong Chow was great in her very stereotypical accent, you could say. But regardless, I mean, I thought it was a creative film at the very least. But a lot of people are wondering, is this Payne's true return to form? Because whether I like that movie or not, it's not his best, let's be honest. And a lot of people are wondering, is he getting back on track to films like what he was doing in the early 2000s with Sideways, and then of course in the early 2010 with Descendants, so on and so forth. And the answer is a resounding yes. Oh my goodness, this really is, I would say, up there with his best work. I still have to see stuff like Election and, like About Schmidt. There's a few movies that I still have to see from him. But my goodness, I'm going to say right now, this is a stone cold Christmas classic. I mean, really, right from the beginning, I already put this in my top 10 Christmas films of all time. And I think this is going to be one that's going to be in the yearly rotation of Christmas movies that I'll be watching with my mom or, whoever at that point. It really is such a wonderful Christmas film. Right from the opening frames of this film, I was like, oh man, I am going to love this movie. And I absolutely did. And let me just say right off the bat, I know a lot of people have been saying Past Lives is the front runner to win Best Original Screenplay, but David Hemmingson's screenplay, I would not count out, because it might be one of my favorite scripts of the entire year, and the one that I would choose to win Best Original Screenplay, if I'm being honest. Because look, for one, there are so many quotables in this movie. I feel like this is maybe the most quotable movie of the entire year. And once you all see it, you will understand, because this is by far the funniest, the wittiest script that I have seen in any film all year. It really is such a phenomenal script from top to bottom that will leave you bursting out laughing the entire runtime. My TIFF audience was eating this movie up, and at some points I couldn't even hear the jokes. Like, it was literally that funny, and I think it hits way more than it misses. And I would never really say it misses, just maybe some jokes aren't as funny to me. I think that's what it really comes down to, because this film is such an enjoyable ride from top to bottom. And the other thing that's so great about the script is the structure of it, because yeah, sure, we've seen stories like this before, right? And not that it's necessarily predictable, but we understand that there's a certain kind of formula with these kind of, found family sort of films. But I think the way it tells the story so well, it's exactly what you expect and want out of a movie like that. And it certainly isn't just, as I said, it isn't necessarily a predictable movie, and it certainly holds back no punches when it comes to the emotional moments. But I really have to say, the humor in this too is edgy in a sense that really doesn't feel offensive to me at all, and I absolutely love that they didn't hold back when it came to that humor. It really is such a clever, clever script, and I can't praise him enough. I really hope he wins Best Original Screenplay, because I absolutely love the script. One of my favorites of the year. But of course, I mean, look, just the directing too, I really think Alexander Payne, as I said, he's back and he's better than ever. And as he was introducing this film, he was talking about how he wanted to make a 70s movie. And the 70s aesthetic comes right through from the opening frame when you had the blue rated R logo that obviously, Queens of the Stone Age took for their own album later on. And I knew we were in for something. The film grain, the cigarette burns, And just the aesthetic of the film itself, it screams 70s in the best way possible. This really is a throwback movie, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I would like to compare this to something like how An Evening with Silk Sonic was a throwback album to the 70s, but still felt like such a great addition to the canon of music. I feel the same way about the Holdovers. Oh yeah, and the soundtrack to this movie is so awesome. As you'd expect, you know, that Christmas music, the early 1970s, late 1960s soundtrack really just complements this movie so well. And it really puts you right in the 1970s once again. I absolutely loved what they did with the music here, and it should come to no surprise considering it's Alexander Payne. It's such a classic story, yet it feels so relatable, and it's, you know, obviously it was written recently, so of course it's still going to hold up to this day. But I just think these stories work for a reason, and I think that also has to do with the amazing cast in here. With Paul Giamatti, my goodness, look, I mean, I hope this lands him a Best Actor nomination, because this is one of the best performances the entire year, one of the best performances of his career, I would say, even after American Splendor, which I have ranked at the top for him. But just his wit comes through in every conversation he has, the way he equips his intellect and integrates it into conversations, the way he structures his character, the way the pathos is revealed through his facial expressions. It is so, so real, and just one of the most interesting characters I've seen in any movie this year. I really hope that, more than anybody, he gets the nomination, because, my goodness, he's just incredible, and I hope that after all this time, Paul Giamatti finally lands himself a Best Actor nomination, because he's long overdue for a leading nomination, and this movie might be the one to do it for him. But also, I think Da'Vine Joy Randolph gives one of the best supporting performances of the entire year with her character in this, who really has a lot to do. Like, as much as she's not present compared to the other two, I think she's given the most to do emotionally in some scenes that really had me on the verge of tears at some point. Like, as funny as this film is, it has those moments where it really, like, lets you sit with these characters and absorb their emotions, absorb their situation in which they're going through, and relate it to the audience in a very relatable and hard-hitting way, which is what I absolutely love about the characters. The writing just, I could go on and on about how great this script is, but I think you know already. And of course, I have to give a shout out to Dominic Sessa, newcomer on this film, who plays Angus in this. And really, look, I have a good sixth sense when it comes to, like, knowing when people are going to blow up. Like, I saw a film back in 2016 called Lady Macbeth, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I said, that Florence Pugh is great. And then we've seen what she went on to do. When I saw Alex Wolff in Hereditary, I'm like, this guy's amazing. You see the career he's had. Obviously Lucas Hedges in Manchester by the Sea. When I saw him, I was like, he deserves an Oscar nomination. Lo and behold, he got one. And I think that could go very much the same way for Dominic Sessa in this. Probably my favorite, even more so than maybe even Da'Vine Joy Randolph, my favorite supporting turn of the entire year. This kid is absolutely incredible, and he's so relatable in a sense, because yet again, these characters are flawed, and they present them in the movie that way to a point where maybe they're annoying, but their charisma is just so undeniable that you buy into the characters, and of course when you learn more about them, you become very emotionally attached to him. But I feel the same way about his character in this, and his performance. This really is a star-making role. I think this guy is really going to go on to do big things in the next few years. Watch out for Dominic Sessa, because he's coming your way, and we're going to be seeing him in a lot more these next few years. I really hope he does get a supporting actor nomination for this, and I think it just goes to show how tight the supporting race is this year, where, like, he's not even like a guarantee. But I absolutely think he should be in there. Absolutely loved all of these performers work in this, and just the character dynamics themselves feel so real, so relatable. and really creates a lot of great conflicts throughout the film. And the character revelations that are made about these three, you could say, misfits throughout this entire film, just really, as I said, draw out a lot of pathos that make this film a very, very special one at that. Because, as I said, it could have just been a very funny movie, but you knew with Alexander Payne's sensibilities, he was going to bring something to the table that was absolutely splendid, and I feel that way about The Holdovers 100%. Honestly, my score for this movie could go up on rewatch, and I can't wait to see it when it comes back out. But there were a few criticisms that I did have with it. Small ones, albeit, but still ones that I wanted to point out. I think some of the other characters just kind of show up and disappear, and they all have great moments, but at a certain point you're like, at what cost? Like, why did we need them here? And, and there's so many great moments with specific characters that it kind of feels like, oh, well, now we're just going to cast them aside. I wasn't, huge on it's not a huge complaint, but it was a nitpick of mine that it did bother me a little bit and held it back from being even higher. And I also think the editing choices made in the first, 5 minutes of the opening of this movie, I felt were very clunky. Now, maybe it'll play better for me on rewatch, but I just didn't like the way it was structured personally, and I was kind of like, that's strange. But I got over it very, very quickly because of how much fun this movie is and how invested I was in the narrative. And another thing, too, is I just don't think there's any scene in this movie like the Pinot Noir scene in Sideways, right? Like, there isn't a extremely layered, beautifully written well, there are many well-written moments, but nothing to that level, I don't think. And so I don't think it matters too much, but I was hoping for a very, a je ne sais quoi moment, like in Sideways. But in my book, this is just as good as Sideways, so I don't really think it matters too much. Look, I mean, I'd say besides Andragogy, I'll just say it, this was my favorite movie from the festival, and I think to an extension one of my favorite films of the year. And yeah, you're definitely going to see this on my top 10 list, no doubt about it. And just because of how crowd-pleasing this movie is, although I voted Andragogy for the People's Choice Award, I am shocked that The Holdovers did not win and lost to a movie that I have yet to see, but I'm going to rectify that when it comes out later this year. Obviously, this was the runner-up, but I really thought that this was going to be the one that everyone fell head over heels for. And I still think they did, obviously, because it was one of the most watched. It was the runner-up. So there is a lot to be said about how much people still love this movie. And I think out of all the films at TIFF this year, this is the clear Oscar player. I think there's a couple of other ones that could be in the conversation, obviously, but this is the one that's going to get in. I think it's going to get picture, undeniably. I think it's going to get Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, maybe Best Supporting Actor, Best Original Screenplay. The list goes on and on. I'm trying to think because there's so many things. I think Payne could get Best Director. I really do. Don't be surprised if they bump more women out this year. I know that will be a big controversy, but I wouldn't put it past the Academy to put Payne in this category and leave some other people out. I really think that that's something that they do. He got nominated for Nebraska as well, so I think it goes to show how much they love Payne. And I think the Academy is going to respond so well to a movie like this, like we've seen in the past, but not in a way that this film feels cloying or Oscar baity, because it really just feels like its own, as much as it owes a lot to 70s movies in a similar vein, it really does feel like its own singular piece that stands on its own merits. And yeah, I absolutely love The Holdovers. I am going to give this film a very high 9 out of 10. As I said, could go up in the future, and this is easily a film that I cannot wait to revisit when it gets released in theaters and when it gets released to home video. So yeah, guys, let me know if you saw The Holdovers at the Toronto International Film Festival, or Telluride for that matter. And let me know, are you excited for this new Alexander Payne film? I certainly think you should be, because I don't think you're going to be disappointed by this movie in the slightest. It's a crowd pleaser in the best possible way you could imagine. And yeah, everyone is going to fall, well, maybe not everyone, but most people are going to fall in love with this movie when it does come out. So yeah, guys, I don't know, I think I'm still going to do another TIFF review, but there's another review I'm going to do after that that's very, very special, and that's coming very, very soon, so I can't wait to get into that. But yeah, guys, until the next video, I will see you later.